The Bitcoin relief rally is well underway, and I'm going to be asking the question, how much higher do we go from here? Do we see a pullback? At what point am I going to be taking profits? At what point might I be entering some short trades? I'm also going to be taking a look at some altcoins that I think have some setups coming in them very, very soon. So if that sounds like something you're interested in, keep on watching and let's jump in. So Bitcoin is currently trading around 96.7 thousand, and you can see we've come into my first target, which was the 618 to 0.65 level, the golden pocket, and we seem to be finding a bit of resistance there. I think this goes one of two ways. Either we come down and we come back towards the 90,000 level before attempting a push higher towards that 100K mark. Or what we might actually see is we might see a more shallow pullback, maybe to backtest the 94 level that obviously price has recently broken through. This was major resistance coming into it from below. We're going to expect it to now have flipped to be support as it comes into that level from above. And hopefully, for the bull's sake, we can see that push up towards 100,000. I mean, personally, I'm quite careful here with taking on any long positions. I have taken some profits into this level. Also, if we do actually see this price come down into 94,000, I think probably that is a potential long opportunity. You could probably look to get long either at 94,000 or, like I say, around the 90,000 level for that next push higher. I believe after this push higher, then I think it would be far too risky personally to be jumping into longs up here. I think at this point, this is probably the area that I will then be looking to take full profits out of any long trades and actually attack the market to the short sides. You've got the 786 Fibonacci. You're also going to have this 200-day moving average starting to come in as resistance. You've also got the bear flag acting as resistance as well, with that upper trend line being in play. So you've got multiple factors that are going to be coming into the market. Plus, psychologically, we're so back. Bitcoin's back above 100,000. Let's go. Rocket ship emojis. You can see it all happening from here right before this market starts to sell off hard. So, like I say, for now, being a bit more cautious, maybe we do get a sort of larger pullback. I mean, if we did come back down towards 90,000, if we just actually draw on our Fibonacci, that would be our 50% retracement. That is usually what I like to see on these types of moves, to actually retrace 50% before taking the next leg higher. Obviously, we did that on the downside multiple times. We came into the 50%, rejected, rejected. Now we've pushed through it. So that does break the short-term bearish market structure into bullish market structure. And like I say, dips should be for buying up until we get into a point of stronger resistance where I think the market structure could then shift to the downside. And like I say, longer term, I am very much expecting this bear flag to play out. How does that look over the remainder of the year? Well, it's going to be a move then down towards the 70,000 level, potential bounce from there, and then just continuation of the downtrend down to an eventual target of, personally, between sort of 30 and 45,000, call it. This is the zone of opportunity. Once you get down here, I think this will be absolutely generational buy stuff. Yes, I will probably be starting to buy into Bitcoin as we get down to the 200-week moving average. I think anything under this 200-week moving average probably is an excellent opportunity to pick up some Bitcoin. So if we've got the 200-week, for example, might start to round over a bit like this, then that should be coming in at around the middle of the year, when I think potentially is the earliest we might get down to these levels. That should be coming in around 60,000. So I think 60,000 is probably an area you want to start to buy into Bitcoin. And like I say, we could go as much as 50% below that as a worst case scenario, in my opinion. So that is how I'm going to be trading things in terms of looking to get back into Bitcoin. But certainly at the moment, I think this is an area that really, these pumps are just really opportunities to offload underwater positions, to offload positions that maybe you want to get out of. And that's personally how I'm treating these myself. Obviously, if things do get a bit crazy, I will be looking to open into shorts. I think personally, it's a little bit premature to get into short positions for myself right here. But like I say, if we do make another leg higher after some sort of pullback, that for me will be the green light to get into those short trades. So that's the update right now on Bitcoin. I did want to look at some of the altcoins on this morning's video as well. So obviously we've got Ethereum starting to push up. I think this probably coincides with maybe a bit of a pullback on Ethereum before a push up towards going as high as 3.8 on Ethereum. Obviously this 200-day moving average is also going to come into play around about 3.7, 3.8. So I would have that as a potential target on any Ethereum positions before again looking for probably some short trades. I mean, if we came up here into this zone between sort of 3.7 and 3.8, for me that would be the area to start to offload any Ethereum longs and then look to actually play the market on the short side. So I have taken profits. For full disclosure, I have taken profits on my Bitcoin, Ethereum longs. I had a little bit of Solana. I've also taken out recently. So I'm still in a small amount, call it about a third of my Bitcoin and ETH longs, just waiting to see if we come up and hit these final targets. Before a pullback, obviously, if we do pull back, I might then sort of get into the market again. So maybe ETH sort of comes back down to about 3.1, Bitcoin to around about 90K, and that would be where I'd look to actually get back into those positions. But just sort of stepping back longer term here, I do think this rally eventually becomes becomes a shorting opportunity and a sell opportunity, and that the next sort of big move will be a shift to the downside and a move to the downside. Solana then as well. I do think Solana has a little bit more in it potentially on the upside. So if just going back to Ethereum, if you look at where this would be, this would also be our 50% level. For Solana, the 50% level is coming in all the way at 185. So there is some room for Solana to move to the upside. I'm not saying that's going to happen. Obviously, Solana has been a bit weaker than Bitcoin and Ethereum, as have all of the altcoins. And therefore, I'm not necessarily expecting this to definitely play out. Potentially, it just comes into around about sort of 170 and the 200-day moving average acts as resistance. But if we pop through there, that would be my target. So I'm going to be paying close attention to Bitcoin, ETH, and Solana. And to be honest with you, I'm not really interested in too much outside of those three majors when it comes to crypto right now. I'm treating everything else as a little bit risky. Just looking at some of the traditional markets quickly, we can see dollar still consolidating. Really, I think this could just sort of chop around sideways in this range for maybe the next month or two. I do think at some point the dollar does get a bit of a rally on, which might be a flight to safety in risk assets, and we might actually see the crypto market fall when that actually happens. But for now, the dollar just seems to be grinding it out around what is fairly sort of could potentially be a fairly major low in the making. I'm not saying this exact price, but sort of in the sort of high 90s before potentially going higher at the end of the year. It remains to be seen. But yes, not really too much to update on the dollar. It's not doing a lot. Obviously, precious metals, again, new all-time highs yesterday on gold, new all-time high, it looks like today already on silver. So when was that exactly? Yeah, it was last night actually. So silver coming off but being bought straight up, so looking very strong. Oil, so oil is a market I'm actively in a trade. I actually was in a long before this trend line breakout. I've actually been waiting for a point to add to that long position, and I actually did a little bit yesterday evening, and I've done a little bit this morning as well as we've come into this zero point 0.5 retracement level. So could we come a bit lower? I mean, if we did this from here, you can see the zero point 0.5 is coming in around about sort of 58.7. Potentially we come down there and tag some of those moving averages as well. You can see on the weekly, it's looking like a bit of a rejection candle, but we still have a few days left to go in the week. So potentially we do come down a little bit more on oil. And if we just go down to the 4 hour, you can see we've got a big cluster of moving averages there around this 618. Of course, we've got the trend line that we've broken out from just below that. So you've got enough areas of resistance, sorry, areas of support coming in just below the price for me to actually be happy to scale in a bit more on this oil long position if we did come down lower. So that is one that I'm personally getting into myself. As for the stock market, we had a bit of a wobble yesterday. So we actually came down, took liquidity from below this trend line, and we're reacting really positively today. So on the S&P, it looks like the S&P just wants to push straight back up to all-time highs. This here, I'm going to tell you what, I was seeing this as a trap yesterday. I did actually add to some stock positions on this, and a big reason for doing that was seeing the VIX. So the VIX actually came in spiking into this ascending trend line here and rejected. And as soon as I started to see this rejection here, this is around about, let me actually go on the hourly chart. This was around about sort of 2:30. So sort of just after the US Open. I'm trying to think what time zone I'm in here. So yeah, I'm on GMT. So just after the US Open, we were finding resistance at this trend line on the VIX, and I could see that even though the market was still coming off into later on in the afternoon, I knew that it was a good opportunity and I wanted to start to position into this weakness. So I sort of did that on the S&P, I did that on the Nasdaq, and it's good to see the market is starting to turn around. Obviously, the Nasdaq on the daily doing a similar sort of thing, coming down, testing that 50-day moving average underneath, catching liquidity underneath this trend line, performing a very, very nice flush and a bit of a bear trap to then start to run to the upside. So that's traditional markets. As I said, I do think there are some other cryptocurrencies I will be interested in getting into fairly soon. And this might upset a few people because it's maybe not what you're expecting, but these are going to be short opportunities that I'm looking at. So in XRP, I just, if we actually go back on the XRP chart and look at this over the years, you can see every time we've had these parabolic advances, we have come literally back down, and it hasn't taken really any more than a year for us to come back down to the source of that breakout and parabolic move. We did it again back here. So as soon as we started to go parabolic, we came back down and retraced that move. So this happened 2017, and then the move down in 2018 happened 2021, the move coming back down in 2022. And so far, we've seen this happen in 2024, 2025. We've actually done something different. We've managed to consolidate, but I do think at some point, likely in 2026, we will come back down and potentially go as low as around about 50, 58, 60 cents, which would be back to this longer term trend line that we've got in play here. And how am I setting up for this trade? Well, I already added to the short. I did mention this on my X account. I added to the short when we came into this trend line. So look, I think any moves into this trend line are good moves to short from. And if we do actually break through this trend line, then I'm targeting this 50% level. And you can see what a major level this has been just over the last few sort of well, over the last few months. You can see here how I've been using it as support, support, support. If we were to come up in here again, then potentially that's going to be flipped to resistance. So let's say we do something like this, we manage to get the breakout and come up here, then I think that would be the rejection and likely coming down to lower prices on XRP. How low can we go? Well, it's anybody's answer. Potentially, we're coming all the way back down here. So that could be something that plays out on XRP. I know a lot of people are fans of XRP. Seems to be a really, really popular retail token, but potentially this is the way I can see XRP trading over the next year. XLM as well, obviously highly correlated to XRP for whatever reason. It just is and moves into this trend line. I personally don't see XLM going through this trend line. Obviously, it's been a lot weaker than XRP, has a smaller following, a lot less hype, but I'm viewing that one as a good short as well. Just looking at the upside on the short side on these is really good. And because the target has to be coming back to the source of this parabolic move, which is basically the Donald Trump election win. And the same with H bar. I mean, this could come all the way down to 5 cents. It's currently at 12 cents. Moves into this trend line will be shorts. Again, similar to XRP, if we were to somehow miraculously break through this, I mean, this is just a wick, so I'm hesitant to kind of go with that as a wick for the low because this will be different on different exchanges. But I mean, potentially, uh, it's hard to say. I'm just not so bullish, but maybe this comes up to the 382. I mean, if this were to go all the way up to the 50%, I mean, that is a no-brainer short, but I'm just reluctant to think we'll actually get there on H bar. I just can't see it. I really can't see it myself. I think H bar, XLM are a bit weaker. I think the only one that could potentially do that would be XRP, but like I say, it might just come into this trend line again and just reject. So yeah, remains to be seen which path it decides to follow. But obviously, I wanted to put those out there as potential shorts that I'll be looking at going forward. And obviously, this would, of course, coincide with Bitcoin likely coming up to this 100K level. I think at that point, it will be time to start looking to de-risk, to hedge, to add in shorts. We'll have to see where the stock market is at. Maybe at that point, it will be time to take some profits on some stock market longs. But obviously, for now, the market is looking fairly good. It's good to see the bounce and reaction from stocks. And I do think the stock market can push on higher. I also do think that crypto, after some sort of pullback, can make one more leg higher towards that 100K level. So I'm going to leave it there. Obviously, thank you very much for watching. If you have enjoyed the content, please do smash the like and have a fantastic day wherever you are. And I will talk to you all on the next one. GM, GM, GM.